art form, and a genuinely troubling one once you look inside. Start with the pod itself. It's a small plastic cup, and to make your coffee, the machine forces water heated to around 90 degrees through that plastic under pressure. Hot water and plastic in direct, pressurized contact is exactly the scenario that raises microplastic and chemical leaching concerns, and independent studies of pod-style brewing have repeatedly flagged microplastic particles ending up in the cup. Every single morning, at the exact moment you think you're doing something simple and harmless. Then there's the coffee, or what's left of it. Pre-ground coffee, sealed in tiny single portions, roasted at some point you'll never be told, sitting in a box for months. Staleness locked in and sold as freshness. And the scale is staggering. We're talking well over 10 billion pods a year going to landfill, most of them not realistically recyclable in practice.
The man who invented the K-Cup, John Sylvan, has said publicly that he regrets creating it and doesn't even own a machine himself. When the inventor won't use his own product, that's not a review, that's a verdict. You're paying one of the highest prices per pound in the entire category for stale commodity coffee wrapped in plastic. It's the worst value in the aisle, dressed up as the greatest convenience. Number 3. Flavored coffees. French vanilla, hazelnut, caramel, the ones that smell like dessert the second you open the bag. This is the coffee people buy as a treat, and it's the coffee that hides the most chemistry per ounce of anything we've covered. Here's how a flavored coffee is actually made. Roasted beans are coated in flavoring compounds, and those compounds have to be carried and dispersed evenly, which is done using a solvent, most commonly propylene glycol. Now, propylene glycol is food grade and legal, but it's the same base compound used in some antifreeze formulations, and that alone should make you ask why it needs to be sprayed onto your morning coffee at all. The flavors themselves hide behind that same familiar umbrella term, natural and artificial flavors, which legally allows a long list of undisclosed compounds to sit in the bag without a single one being named. And here's the part that ties it all together. What kind of beans do you think a company reaches for when they know they're about to bury the coffee under a wall of vanilla and caramel? Not their best. Flavoring is the perfect place to offload lower grade, staler, more defective beans, because the coffee was never meant to be tasted on its own. The flavor is doing the entire job the coffee couldn't. You think you're buying a treat. You're buying a solvent-carried cover story for beans that couldn't stand up on their own. Number 2. Kirkland Signature. Costco's own label. And this one is frustrating for a very specific reason, because the whole Costco model runs on earned trust. Members build their shopping around the Kirkland name. The assumption is automatic. Someone at Costco already vetted this. Someone already asked the hard questions, so I don't have to. That assumption is the business model, and in coffee, it's doing more work than it should. Here's what that trust is quietly resting on. A good portion of Kirkland coffee is actually roasted by Starbucks, which means it inherits the very same dark roast, commodity blend approach we already pulled apart at number 6, just with a different label and a bigger bag. It's typically a blend with no single origin, and in most formats, there's no roast date on the bag at all. And bulk makes it worse, not better. You're not bringing home a small bag you'll finish this week. You're bringing home an enormous one, opening it, and then working your way through it for a month or two while it sits there, oxidizing a little more with every day the seal is broken. The value per pound looks unbeatable. But value on stale, anonymous, dark roasted commodity coffee is just a cheaper version of the same problem. The Kirkland name didn't vet the coffee for you. It just made you comfortable enough not to check. And that comfort is exactly what this entire category depends on. Number 1. Conventional decaffeinated coffee. This is last for a specific reason, and it's the same reason it's the most important entry in this video. Every other coffee on this list is something people buy out of habit, or price, or convenience. This one is different. This is the coffee people switch to precisely because they are trying to be careful. Think about who actually drinks decaf. A pregnant woman told to cut caffeine to protect her baby. Someone with a heart condition, following doctor's orders. A person with anxiety, or insomnia, or acid reflux, who has made a deliberate, responsible decision to take the caffeine out. These are the most careful drinkers in the entire aisle. And here is what most of them have never been told about how that caffeine gets removed. There are several ways to decaffeinate coffee. The clean ones use water, or carbon dioxide, or a naturally derived ethyl acetate process, and they cost more. The cheap one, and the one used across a huge amount of commodity decaf, is called the direct solvent or European process, and it uses dichloromethane, also known as methylene chloride. That is the paint stripping, metal degreasing solvent I opened this whole video with. The National Toxicology Program lists it as reasonably anticipated to be a human carcinogen.
In 2024, the Environmental Protection Agency moved to ban most consumer uses of it entirely. And yet decaf coffee sits under the Food and Drug Administration, which still permits residues of it in your cup, up to a set limit, with nothing on the label. In that same window, the Environmental Defense Fund, the Clean Label Project, the Center for Science and the Public Interest, and others formally petitioned the FDA to ban methylene chloride in decaf altogether, and independent lab testing has detected the solvent in several major grocery decaf brands. The label doesn't say any of this, it just says decaffeinated. It never names the process because it never has to. Now hold the whole picture at once. The person doing the responsible thing, the one who gave up caffeine for their heart, their baby, their health, is the single most likely person in the aisle to end up with a chemical residue in their cup that a paint stripper regulation is trying to get rid of.
That is not the worst tasting coffee on this list. It's the widest gap on this list between who the product is sold to and what's actually in it. And that gap is exactly what puts it at number 1. Before we get to the good news, one thing needs saying plainly. Not one of these 10 coffees is breaking the law. Every one of them operates inside what the FDA currently allows. That's not a defense of them. It's a description of how much distance there is between what the regulations permit and what the science on mold toxins, on acrylamide, on that solvent actually says. The rules haven't kept pace, and the commodity coffee industry built comfortable, profitable products right in the gap. But some companies looked at the exact same shelf, the exact same costs, and made a completely different decision. Here are 3 of them. Best option number 3, Kicking Horse Coffee. This is the one you can actually find without a special trip. Kicking Horse is certified organic and fair trade, sold as whole beans, 100% Arabica, with named origins and blends rather than an anonymous commodity mystery. Organic certification here isn't a feel-good word. It means the beans were grown without the synthetic pesticides and fungicides that coat conventional coffee in the field, addressing one of the 3 problems I raised at the very start of this video. Because it's sold as whole beans, you grind it fresh, which protects the aromatics that pre-ground commodity coffee has already lost by the time it reaches you. It carries a roast date, and it's stocked widely, in warehouse clubs, in ordinary supermarkets, online. Which matters, because a clean coffee you can't find doesn't help anyone. It's not the deepest, most tested option on this list, but it clears the organic bar, the whole bean bar, and the availability bar all at once. And that makes it the easiest, honest upgrade most people can make this week. Best option, number 2, Life Boost Coffee. This is where the testing becomes the entire point. Life Boost sells single origin coffee, grown at high altitude and shade grown, and crucially, it's third-party tested for the exact things the commodity brands never mention: mycotoxins and mold, pesticide residue, and heavy metals. Remember ochratoxin A, the mold toxin the United States sets no limit on? This is a brand that pays an outside laboratory to go looking for it and publishes that it did. That willingness to invite outside scrutiny is the closest thing this category offers to a real guarantee, because a brand that pays to be tested is a brand prepared to be caught if it fails. It's sold as whole bean, it names its origin, and it even offers a decaf produced through the clean Swiss water process. The exact answer to everything we just covered at number 1. It costs more than a tub of commodity blend. What you're paying for isn't a logo. It's the lab report the cheap can will never show you. Best option number 1, your local roaster. After 10 brands pulled apart, after the mold, the solvent, the char, and the plastic, the best coffee you can buy has no national advertising budget, no celebrity endorsement, and quite possibly a label printed in the back of a small shop across town. Run it through every single question that eliminated everything else on this list and watch it pass. A roast date? Right there on the bag, and it'll often be a matter of days, not years. Traceable? Completely. You can ask the person who roasted it exactly where the beans came from, and they will tell you the country, the farm, the altitude, the harvest. Single origin? Usually available if you just ask. Fresh? You grind it yourself, at home, minutes before you brew. This is the complete inversion of everything the global commodity chain was built to strip out. The bag connects to the roaster connects to the farm.
The story is told out loud by a real person standing behind what they made, instead of buried under a misty mountain photograph designed by a marketing team. Finding one is easier than you'd think. A local roaster, a good independent cafe that sells beans, a weekend market, a quick search for coffee roasters near you. When you find one, ask 2 questions. When was this roasted, and where is it from? 2 questions, and you'll know more about what's in your cup than the front of any commodity can has told you in your entire life. Now, 4 things you can do in your own kitchen tomorrow morning. No lab, no equipment, most of them under a minute. First, the roast date audit. Flip the bag over and look for a roast date. If all you find is a best before date printed a year or 2 into the future, that tells you the product was built for shelf life, not for your cup. Real coffee is dated by when it was roasted, because coffee is at its best in the weeks after roasting, not the years. Second, the bloom test, and this one is genuinely satisfying. Put fresh grounds in a filter or a mug and pour just a little hot water over them, enough to wet them. Watch closely. Fresh coffee blooms. It swells and foams and bubbles as it releases the carbon dioxide still trapped inside from roasting. Stale, oxidized, old commodity coffee does almost nothing. It just sits there flat and wet. That bloom, or the lack of it, is freshness you can see with your own eyes in about 10 seconds. Third, the smell test. Grind a small amount and put your nose right into it before you brew. Real, fresh coffee smells bright, complex, alive. Stale or low-grade coffee smells flat, papery, sometimes faintly rancid or ashy. Your nose knows the difference immediately once you've done it side by side, even once. Fourth, and most important, the decaf label audit. If you drink decaf, turn the bag around and look for how it was decaffeinated. If it clearly says Swiss water or carbon dioxide or names a chemical-free process, you're safe. If it just says decaffeinated with no process named at all, assume the cheap solvent and put it back. That single check protects the exact person who most wanted to make the careful choice. So here's where this lands. 10 coffees to put back. Not because any single cup is going to hurt you tonight, but because they all fail the same handful of questions. Where is it from? They go quiet. When was it roasted? No answer. What species? What process? What's actually in it? Silence, every time. Hidden behind a slogan, a mountain photo, or a heritage story built by the same handful of conglomerates. 3 that pass because they kept the origin, dated the roast, tested for the toxins, or put a real person's name behind the bag. You now have 4 kitchen tests and 4 fingerprints to look for. Roast date, 100% Arabica, single origin, and a named clean decaf process. You don't actually need this list anymore. You can walk into any shop, pick up any bag, and make a better call than almost everyone else in that aisle. If this changed how you'll look at the coffee shelf, do 2 things for me. Subscribe, because this is exactly the kind of breakdown we do here every single week. And drop a comment answering one of these. 1. Which of these 10 was already sitting in your cupboard before you watched this? 2. Are you a decaf drinker? And did you know about the solvent? And 3. Do you have a local roaster you love that everyone should know about? Name them, because someone reading this comment section lives near them. Next week, we're opening the olive oil aisle, and the fraud running through those bottles labeled extra virgin makes the coffee aisle look honest. Until then, flip the bag over, read the back, and ask the 2 questions the label was designed to make you feel you never needed to ask.